Hey, what's going on? Dr. Danny here with the PT Entrepreneur Podcast, and today we have a special podcast for you. This is a conversation in our Rainmaker program with one of our amazing coaches, Michael, and one of our amazing alumni, Kim. Now, Kim came through the Rainmaker program and is now working with us in the Mastermind program, scaling her business. And it's cool to be able to hear the journey, right? To hear how people got started, the things that were challenges along the way, and then where they are now. And this is something that we do on an ongoing basis within that Rainmaker program. And a lot of it is so people that are just getting started, which is what that program is for. You know, people that are really just looking to start and get to a point where they can go all in on their practice. For a lot of them, it's the hardest stage from a mindset standpoint. You don't know if you're going to be able to do it. There's a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of imposter syndrome. And to be able to, hear somebody describe the things that they went through that are so similar to what you're going through, and recently so, right? Be able to overcome those and move on to the next stages of her business. It's really a important thing to hear, and it's very motivating. So we want to share this with the community as well. So you can hear, Kim's story. You can hear Michael, who, is just a fantastic coach, be able to have a great conversation with her about what that looks like and what she's doing now. So I hope you enjoy. I want to give you a little bit of context for what this is. And as always, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Hey, thanks so much for doing this. This is gonna be fun today.
No, I'm excited. Yeah, this is I'm on Pacific time, so it's right at lunch hour, so it's good for me.
Oh, perfect. I forgot.
Yeah.
Which city are you up in? You're in Pacific Northwest, right?
No, I'm in California. I'm in Sacramento.
Sacramento. Sorry, Kim.
Yeah. No worries.
What you do over the weekend? Anything fun?
Yeah, actually, we had a big party in our clinic because we had the California International Marathon, and it's in Sacramento. So it's in a town in Folsom. They go down to downtown Sacramento, and they pass the clinic along the way. So we had a viewing party.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Well, if you're okay, what we'll do is this is going to be recorded. So
Yep.
just for the sake of time, normally we would just kind of like BS and chit chat a little bit. But if
Yeah.
you're okay, Kim, I'm just going to give you a brief introduction, and then I'll let you roll with a few questions. You were able to access those questions that we had earlier, right? Through that email.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Well, welcome everybody to the Tuesday call. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. So each month we're going to be highlighting a Rainmaker alumni who has since gone from the Rainmaker and ascended into our Mastermind program. So today I'm joined with Kim, who, as I erroneously pointed out, she's in Sacramento. Kim's got a really cool team of other PTs with her. I'm not going to steal her thunder too much, but we'll welcome Kim. And then Kim, if you wouldn't mind, just give us a little bit of some background about yourself, how long you've been a PT, maybe any early jobs you took before starting your own practice. Just give us a little background of who you are.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for having me. Like Michael said, I'm Kim, and I own Lacoste PT and Performance. So I always have to preface what Lacoste is. Lacoste means strength in Filipino. I'm Filipino. Chose a word that I didn't think anyone would ever take as far as a PT goes. So from a branding standpoint, I'd say we did great on that. But before Lacoste, I graduated PT school in 2019. So I started really in 2020 treating. And I worked at a sports kind of outpatient, clinic. I wouldn't call it a mill. It was actually a really sweet gig. So I worked at like a one-on-one setting, hour eval, 30-minute follow-ups. Worked there for about 2 years. And I really try to find the best clinic in my area. And from an in-network practice standpoint, I thought that was the best that I could do. And it was for 2 years. But the reason why I became a PT to begin with is I had 2 torn ACLs in high school. So I'm very familiar with ACL rehab, played through college, played college basketball. And, and I just know all the like kind of breakthroughs and just like the mental mindset too of ACL rehab, going through my injury. So I felt like with my in-network job at the time. Like, anyone and everyone can walk through the door, but I couldn't pour into my ACL rehab folks, especially in that like return to sport, middle to late phase of rehab. I was definitely pushing that clinic to like get all the tools available, get a force plate, get a dynamometer, and it just kind of, again, it's a local clinic, but it was big enough to where there was more like down the line to be able to make those changes in-house in the clinic. Um, so that was a little bit frustrating. But it wasn't really until I actually got COVID, like early 22, where I couldn't work for a week because obviously, and I had time to think. And I'm sure that's a common story with a lot of people. Is like, okay, during that time during the pandemic, you have more time to think. What kind of like clinician do you want to be? How do you want to work? How do you want to work? Who's the population you want to work with? And that's really where the ball started rolling. I think that's when I took a call with John Licata at PT Biz for the Rainmaker. I think it was like early. I didn't even start the practice. I didn't have a name yet, and I just kind of was like, hey, I have an idea. I think I can, and then that spurred this all on. So yeah, it's a little bit of background on
That's
before the
awesome.
practice. Yeah.
Two questions. One, how many years had you been working as a PT then before you decided to open up your
hmm
practice? How many
Yeah.
years was that? Was that 4 for you?
No, it was like I was relatively new still. So I was like 2 years under my belt. So I was like
Oh
probably
wow.
heading into my third year. Yeah. So I graduated end of 19, treated February 2020, March hit. We all know what happened. And then I think I started my practice March 22. So it was like 2 years.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, it's good. And then tell us a little bit about so when you joined the Rainmaker has program has gone through several iterations and evolution. So like Jaxie and I
hmm
were both Rainmakers way back when in like late 2020
hmm
together. And back then we didn't have one-on-one coaching calls. There were
hmm
two group calls. There was somebody was doing one Monday evening and then Danny was doing one Thursday afternoon. What was the Rainmaker
hmm
setup like at that point? Did you have one-on-one calls?
Yeah. I remember one-on-one calls with Courtney, I believe at the time. And
Okay.
then I had another coach. I think it was, I want to say Liz, or Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that was the extent of it. Yeah. And then we had some like maybe at some point we were in a group, I believe, or maybe I'm mixing up mastermind, but I felt like there was some sort of group as well. But yeah, or maybe that was just me hopping into a call similar to this. Uh, it seems like that such a long time ago, even though it's been 3 years, I guess. But I do
Yeah.
remember some one-on-one calls for sure.
Okay, perfect. How did you even
Yeah,
find out about PT Biz? So like you have this idea during COVID that you want to
yeah.
you think about splintering off and doing your own thing. How did you
hmm
even come about? Was it podcast? Was it one of the like
Yeah,
Instagram ads? Like how did you even get hooked up with PT
yeah.
Biz in general?
Oh man. So during my like last clinical, I remember um buying Danny's book, self-insurance book.
Yeah.
So that was like probably sitting on my like to read or on my
Like the
bookshelf
paper
for a
copy? Do
while.
you have the
What's
paper
that?
copy or the digital one?
I had the paper copy. Yeah, I had the paper
Okay.
copy. So I was just sitting there collecting that. So I would say, it was always an idea. I was like, okay, maybe in 5 years out, I'll go start something, or 10 years out. I didn't know it would be as early as two, to be honest with you, but it was there. And then I think as I started to really, and then I started listening to the podcast, right? And then that got the ball rolling even more.
Mhm.
So I think I met Danny that 22 fall like mastermind because I went right in from clinical rainmaker into the mastermind. So I met him that year, and I was like fangirling. I was like, I feel like I know you for a while, but for the most part, it was a slow burn for me. Like I was like, okay, I might read this book, I might listen to this podcast, and then all of a sudden, I was like, okay, I think I'm in the thick of things now.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of us kind of have this like this moment where it's like a tipping point. We're like, all right, now's the time to make the like let's just do it. Like no more tiptoeing, dancing around it. Like we're either gonna do this, we're either gonna shit or get off the toilet kind of deal, right? So finally hopped in. So that's great. So then you join the Rainmaker program, you get hooked up with John and then Courtney and Elizabeth Rudd. Tell us a little bit, like when you started out early in your practice, like what were your initial goals that you even wanted to accomplish while you were in the Rainmaker? Like, we always go through our
Yeah.
one-on-one calls as what do you want to accomplish in 6 months with us? Like, what were some of your initial things that you wanted to do within that kind of startup phase?
Yeah, honestly, it was first to just replace my income, which I think most people have as a first goal is like, hey, this is kind of the bar. Can I just meet this bar? I don't even know if I was looking to hire even the first year, to be honest. Like I was just like trying to just float on by, make sure that I think looking back, I wish I had more clarity at starting, but you don't know what you don't know at the time, right? Like I was just like, let me replace my income. Let me see the people I want to see. Can I get cheap rent somewhere? What workshops do I need to run that weekend? So just putting one foot in front of the other until momentum builds up, right? And we can talk about more on that. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was like priority number one is just like replace my income.
Yeah, I think that's a really common goal, right? Because I think people are afraid, they want this proof of concept and brand awareness, et cetera, right? But at the end of the day, it comes down to dollars and cents, right? Like, if you're not making money, you can't support your own practice. So just to have the ability to either replace it or come really close to that. Did you feel like you were pretty well paid and well taken care of at the job that you left prior to starting it? Or did you feel like you were we talk about like solopreneurs. Sometimes we don't have health insurance or 401k and some of those other benefits. Like, how'd that sit with you?
Yeah, are you like in that first year of
Yeah.
starting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I so and that's where there's some things that helped along the way. Like um I got engaged around the same month I started my practice. We got married a month and a half or a year and a half later. So like yeah, there was a period there where I think my wife and I, like, we've been married for a couple of years, but I think we were domestic partners at the time to just get into her health insurance. So there were things that helped on that end. Um, as far as like, and I think it's still an ongoing, I wouldn't call it struggle, but an ongoing conversation in my head of like investing in the business versus investing as far as investment goes, right? Like kind of the more like Roth IRA, the more traditional route versus like investing into your business of hiring and keeping dollars in the business. So I still toggle with that too, but that was definitely like oh, I'm playing, I remember like year one, year two, I was like, oh, I'm playing a different game than like my friends who are nurses and dietitians and get W-2s and salaries. And it's a different way to think about it. Yeah.
It's hard because if you're used to like, you're probably salaried, right? So you're like, okay, cool. Every 2 weeks, twice a month, whatever, right? I'm going to get paid X amount of money. And it's
Yeah.
like it's a little bit of a struggle at first to say like, hey, I don't know what my next paycheck is going to look like when it comes. It could be higher, it could be lower, it could be whatever, right? How did
Yeah.
you, if you don't mind me asking, Kim, how did you feel like your money mindset was around all of that? Like with some of the financial undulations that take place in the beginning?
For sure. It was tough. Like, I had to have conversations with my significant other of like, hey, this is about as much as I can take to help with rent, or this is like minimum, and maybe, or there's a growth cycle coming up. Like, hey, like, as I got to know, I'll speak more on the first space I was in. I just knew I couldn't be there longer than a year because there was like no air conditioning. It was the heat of Sacramento. I was up in a loft somewhere. It was like dirt cheap rent, but like there were times where I had to stop treating at 11 o'clock summertime because it was just way too hot the rest of the day. So knowing that, I was like, okay, I need to find another space, and I know rent's going to increase. Like, I need to save money for that, like that sort of stuff. But yeah, from a personal to like business standpoint, it is the same as it is now. Like, I still have growth phases now where like, hey, can you toggle back on your personal to reinvest in the business as best as you can? Like what's the minimum amount you can pay yourself, but still like, hopefully not diminish your lifestyle so much. Maybe for a short window you have to, but like to where okay, you feel more of a buffer to grow the business. So I think that's where, you know, people can get stuck, is like they don't know that balance, and it's like they're taking as much to fund personal, the personal side of things, and then the business stays stagnant, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a tough balance too. I think a lot of people it's all about finding that balance, and it takes a hot minute, right? Like your
Yeah.
first year in practice, you may not even find that balance unless, right, you're tracking KPIs. So we always get on you guys for doing that. This is why it's so important to find some of these trends. So tell us a little bit about that space, Kim, because that space sounds pretty gnarly for Satan's summer up there. So was this a CrossFit gym, or what kind of gym was this that you got hooked up with?
Yeah, it was so funny. It was literally like it was not a CrossFit gym. It's kind of like a mix of other trainers in the space. So it's almost like there was a trainer and their client, trainer and their client. So it wasn't CrossFit. It was more, I guess, a studio than anything else, I'd call it. But it was 2 stories. I was on the loft, to be honest with you. There were stairs to find me upstairs, and no AC. Like I said, and it was good for what it was. Like, I think I was paying $250 a month, like stupid cheap. I think I found them because I was just on Instagram, and I was DMing like gyms at the time, and they're one of the first few that responded, and got to meet the guy, and he seemed really cool, and and that was a good start. But I knew, I'll tell you one story, like around that winter time, it would start raining in Sacramento, and I would start to see like a one drip of, like, I had to have a pail in the middle. And I'd have to apologize to patients of like, yeah, sorry about that. Like, trying to get the roof fixed, and it wasn't gonna be fixed because I, wasn't the owner or anything. So I just knew, I was like, okay, I have a deadline within summer of 23, or I think, yeah, 23 at the time, I have to find another space. And luckily I did. It was another sublease where I was able to grow a little bit past myself, and I was able to hire like a PT next to me in a sublease space. So that helped propel more momentum our way as far as growth goes.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That's perfect. I want to touch on that in a minute though, Kim, but tell us a little bit more. So we got this kind of loft sublease. And then how did you even come by the first few patients to even get into your practice? Like, were they some of the patients that followed you from your former job? Tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about like what the first like maybe month or two of new patient acquisition was like for you.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I wrapped up my last job, and there were people that found me there that was like, "Hey, um, I'd love to see you. I'd love to still work with you." So there was a couple. I did Luna, so there, the kind of like concierge, kind of that sort of stuff to help float by. But it really was a lot of. There's a few clients that really spread the word of mouth for me, like generate leads for me. So one was like a director of I would say director of training for Fleet Feet Sacramento. And Fleet Feet is all over the country, but the first Fleet Feet started in Sacramento. So we have a huge following in that store, and like run clubs and training programs through that store. And he was my patient. And he was just like, love what you do. Like, I'd love to get you to do like come do a warm up with one of our training programs. And I did like webinars leading up to like a marathon or a half marathon. We do like virtual workshops, if you will, because it was still kind of in the height of the pandemic or COVID, I guess, like towards the tail end. And yeah, that was just awesome momentum. So I would say I was deep in ACL rehab, knew that I wanted to work with that. Runners, it was like I've done a couple half marathons, but I wouldn't say I was like an avid runner. But with those population, I had to like, oh gosh, I got to up my game to be able to serve this population. There's like the ultra marathon, the marathoners, 100K club, like yeah. So to be able to talk their language was an adjustment for me, but that honestly like helped open the floodgates a little bit with a new niche that I didn't see coming, to be honest.
That's cool because sometimes it just takes the right patient, the right person, and then all of a sudden it's like they become this catalyst, and before you know it, you're like, oh, cool. I thought I was gonna be ACL, and then now I'm like, knee deep in running and talking about how to modify your training for an ultra marathon. Like, who would have thought, right? So, and I think too, as the business matures, the more people that you get through word of mouth, the better your business is doing, right? Because then it doesn't feel like you have to like do as much guerrilla grassroots marketing, and at that
Yeah.
point it just kind of, now you have a good product, you have a good service, and people know about you, and that I think is a testament to kind of like that sophomore stage of your business. So that's great. How so you're doing these webinars, did you get a lot of traction from the webinars during that time? Was that kind of like the only option, or was that just the option that you went with? Tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, it was some in-person workshops. I wasn't say it was all webinars. There was a couple webinars, some in-person workshops. I did the injury screens as well. I think maybe more in the sophomore year of business in store. So and then outside of the running community, like I would talk to like soccer clubs. And I still was trying to like find the ACL niche within my new practice. Um, and that came naturally as well, where like, okay, it took one, two, three couple of soccer patients, and the soccer community is huge, and sadly the ACL, the recurrence rate is just so high with those athletes that they would refer like a teammate, or they know somebody that knows somebody. So that kind of came in as a secondary niche for me.
Cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
What do you, well, now that we talked a little bit about like some successes, what do you feel
Yeah.
like in the beginning, we'll say like the first 3 to 4 months of your practice, Kim, what do you feel like were the biggest challenges to really kind of get the ball rolling, to really gain some of that traction? Like, what do you feel like were a couple snag or sticking points?
Yeah, for sure. Um, I think as I like started to figure out, okay, like I'm seeing people, which is great. But I started to think about a team, right? Like, okay, what would that look like? What is an admin? Like, how are they gonna help me here? Or so I did one of my very first hires was like like a friend. He was actually like an aide at my last job. But and we ended up becoming like when I say an aide, even though he's an aide, he was like close in age as me. So, I we got lunch one day, and I was just like, "Look, this is about how much I can pay for an admin. Can you help me in this aspect?" And I just remember margins were still thin, right? Like, even though I had cheap rent and I was paying myself minimally, like even just creating a job description for somebody, and the word systems was not in my vocabulary yet. So, like trying to lead somebody or create a culture when you're also just like threading water as a business owner was one of the challenges. Was like, and like, luckily for me and him, we're still friends, and he sends people our way. But I I'm almost like, I don't even know the last 6 months of, or the first 6 months of working with him, like what I told him to do. I think we filmed a YouTube exercise library, and maybe he helped some social media stuff. But it's like I didn't know what I didn't know on as far as like bringing on a staff member and what that entailed.
When did you hire him? Because he was your first hire, right?
Yeah, yeah, I would say probably the tail end of 22, like, maybe I was, like, maybe 4 or 5, maybe closer to 6 months into the practice where I, like, just additional help kinda deal.
Sure. What
Yeah,
was, so obviously it was a little bit of a, we'll call it a lean contract. Like, what did you end up like? What was that setup like? Because we get some questions from time to time, and even in the Rainmaker about like, hey, I know that my first hire is typically an admin. Do I pay
yeah,
them minimum wage? Like, what do I have them do? Like, can you tell us a little bit about what that was like from and then
sure.
we'll get into the leadership side.
Yeah, yeah, if it wasn't minimum wage, it was slightly above, I think, is what I was paying him, like, it wasn't, like, a lot of money. I think he also was interested in like personal training. So we tried to do like okay, I'm a PT, and like if someone that comes through our funnel of like leads, I guess, and who's maybe looking for just some sort of personal training where they're not really injured, we tried that aspect and I try to pay him maybe slightly more than that, but in my practice right now, that's not our model. We don't have personal trainers, so it was a lot of doing and trying. And I'm like, yeah, that didn't stick with me because it was confusing from a marketing and also messaging standpoint. Like, what's PT versus personal training? Who do I see? So I kind of like stretched that quite early. But yeah, he kind of just helped me on the back end side of things, mostly social media. Like we still have the same videos. He's on them on if you look up our exercise library, you guys will see the trajectory of our clinics is like our very first one is like dark and gloomy. Our second one's like bright and there's like red, which is not our color. And now you'll see like our clinic right now with our brand colors. So it's quite interesting.
Oh God, it's so funny when you look back at like early social media, early YouTube, like obviously you want it to look better and different, but sometimes you get like Instagram will send you one of those like, "Hey, you remember this really lame reel that you put out?" I'm like, "Oh my God, like no beard, skinny, like dude wasn't doing anything." And it's just like you just talking and it's like, "What are you even saying?" It's so bad. Like it's terrible.
My God, how many like I feel like I've renamed our Lacoste PT into different things. Like this was a Instagram that I had as a student. So it was renamed something else and I've archived so many, posts that no one will ever see again. But it's all the breadcrumbs though leading to where we are now. So
Exactly. So I take it, are you a big social, like obviously we have to do it social media for our practice.
yeah.
Before, Rainmaker and starting your practice, were you big into social media yourself, or how do you feel about social media? 'Cause it's always it's kind of polarizing, you know?
Yeah. As a consumer of it, I mean, I like it to be honest
Yeah.
with you. Like if I'm tired from a work day, I could scroll and, I'm not bad at scrolling. I'm pretty decent at it. So I like it from that aspect. But when you think about it from a business lens, it's like, oh, I have to do it. And that's where I didn't like it as much. It's like, yes, I will. I'll have some sort of momentum, or have some sort of idea, and I want to like act on it. But then there's no like system in place to be like, okay, I'm posting Monday, Wednesday, Friday at so and so. And so the minute that became more of like a task, and like because of the business, that's where it was like, oh God, I need to hire somebody to help me with this to just get me concentrated.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like you take something that's kind of fun and you're kind of interested in it, and then now you have to like systematize it, make it look pretty
Right.
catchy, because God forbid it's longer than like 80 seconds and ADD people scroll away, right? It's a whole to do. It's so, you talk to like Brooke Miller, who's one of our coaches in our mastermind program, she hates social media and she's like, I don't think that PT should be doing social media. They should be treating patients, right? And I mean, I get her point, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, it's such a necessary evil. Because what do you
Yeah.
do? Not have a social media page? Somebody's gonna look you up, be like, that's weird. They have like three posts and one of them is gritty and gloomy. It's like I don't know. Like we just have to do it. But
Yeah.
well, tell us
I
a
was
little. Okay.
Yeah, one last thing on the social media side, like that, it took a while for me to even like currently with our practice now to offload that to someone else to help someone like spearhead that. I think I was holding on to that even too long because I felt like, oh, I needed the right messaging there and and it needs to look our brand and it needs if it's ACL stuff, it needs to be evidence based, that sort of stuff. So it took a while for me to like to peel that out of off my hands because I do like it, but not enough to be like consistent with it, I guess.
So how do you set it up now? So you offloaded it to your current admin, right?
So we have a third party vendor who's like she does marketing for businesses local to Sacramento. So she's awesome. We do like a once a month like kind of film session with our PTs and we get it done in like an hour, 2 hours, and it's good for 2 months where she's just like, you know, able to
Mm.
like give us not a script, but kind of like ideas of what to talk about. And then, we're just talking in front of the camera or doing some sort of exercise demo, and it's worked out really well. We've had her for only a few months, and I love it. Yeah.
Oh, wow, this is a recent thing then. Cool.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Do you mind telling us cost wise? Because obviously everybody probably perked up and they're like, oh, cool, I can just outsource it to somebody and pay them.
Yeah.
What's the investment look like from a business perspective?
Yeah. So I want to say it's like 200, 220 a week. So it's like if you do a 4 times 4, it's like around 800. And if it's a 5 week, 5 week month, if you will, it's closer to like 1100. So 800 to 1100 is what I pay.
It's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really not terrible for some of the companies that I looked into in the past. So one guy wanted like $2,500 a month and like a
Mhm.
retainer up front as well. It was ridiculous. So, but that's a good deal. Cool. So Kim, tell us a little bit. Let's circle back to baby Rainmaker stage. Like how do you feel like what would you attribute your big leap in success for? So like when you really started to hit your stride, was it
Yeah.
the fleet feet? Was it something else? Like when do you really feel like you're like, okay, cool. Now I can make it. I feel like I can really pull this thing off and I can really make this my full-time gig, give up Luna and just really invest in this. What was that turning point like for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it was I went all in pretty quickly, to be honest with you. Like I said, from a personal standpoint, I was able to offload the like my wife was able to help on the carry us a little bit on the personal side in the first few months. Um, but as far as like momentum and how long it took, I would say within 4 or 5 months, I was like, okay, I think this can be my full time thing, completely without Luna and everything else. Um, and yeah, I think the biggest thing is like knowing your avatar. And I had two of them, right? Like I said, one fell on my lap. One I was actively seeking out and wanting to treat ACLers, but like even in those early social media posts, like I was talking to ACL clients, I was talking to runners, and I put the messaging to where, okay, if it's got to be one of those two people that are seeing this, um, and that helped a lot because there's so much noise, as you guys know, on like the internet and even in your local town or local city is like how many PT clinics are there, but how can you differentiate your messaging, to that person that you want to treat, right? And then you got to deliver on a great product for sure. So that's the word of mouth, continuity of things. It's like, okay, you help so and so, and they're going to bring their friend, and then that person's going to bring their other friend, and like knowing that people are going to talk and they're going to be within their same group kind of throughout the community. Like how many run clubs are there at breweries, or coffee shops? So I think just doing a stellar job in your day-to-day work as a PT is part of marketing.
Oh yeah, like the patient, you know how we always talk about the patient experience in the mastermind, right? It's like now everything revolves around that. That's really yeah, that's a really good point though, Kim, because you just have to it's like with that word of mouth, I feel like once you start to really get that and you don't feel like you have to I don't want to say market as hard, but you don't have to spend so much time and energy being almost obsessive about it. You know, you can actually start to feel like, okay, I can kind of actually treat as a clinician and then take discovery calls and kind of focus a little bit more on
Yeah,
the internal dynamics of the clinic rather than all of these other external forces of nature that you have to go out and kind of, fight against.
for sure. Yeah, and like it also doesn't divert your attention so much, right? Like I wasn't at CrossFit gyms. Like I knew I like, CrossFit once in a blue moon, but it just wasn't my thing. And I wasn't at like assisted living facilities or anything like that. Like I wasn't marketing to everyone and everybody. I like knew my okay avatar of like it's probably someone in their 30s to 50s, and they're probably hanging out here. So I think that's the biggest thing when you're a new business owner is like your time is already limited. You're the only person. You don't quite have an admin. How can I really target my messaging to the person I want to be in front of.
Did you find that when you did market and you started to kind of, especially in the running world, it sounds like you did a lot more like in-person marketing. Did you
Mhm.
find that you were leaning more towards workshops, towards injury screens? You find yourself doing a pretty even mix of both? Because we get a lot of people that ask us in the Rainmaker, like, which marketing avenue is best for me, right? So,
Yeah.
what did you find was most successful for your personality and your avatar?
Yeah. Definitely the workshops. I mean, the injury screens are great, but I think that was more in the later half of things. Maybe when I was already in my second location, I was thinking about injury screens. But if we're talking about the first year, it was definitely like workshops. I loved educating. I was a former varsity basketball coach, so just being able to like I think that's important too, is like, how can you command the room? How can you like be the subject matter expert? I would get nervous for sure, but I always try in the back of my head, be like, okay, I still know this X topic better than anybody else in this room. How can I exude confidence? And I think that's the biggest thing about workshops is like, can you simplify it for the layman person, but also kind of show your skill set and show your knowledge base on like whatever topic you want to talk about, and then giving them a call to action at the end.
Yeah, yeah, that's solid. So let's transition now. So
Also,
you wrap up the Rainmaker program.
Mhm.
Um, at that point, was it a 6 month program? Was there a hard stop at 6 months, or
Was
there
it
was a time
3
when
at
it
that point?
were you part of the 3 month? There was a short phase where it was 3 months, and then we found
Yeah.
that was too short, and then we expanded it to 6 months. So
I wanna say I was just at 3 because I
okay,
started, like, March, April, May, June, maybe by July, I was already at Mastermind, to be honest.
okay. So
Yeah.
what prompted you to then like go from the Rainmaker up to the Mastermind? Like, how did you decide that it was time to ascend? What made you want to stay within the PT biz
Mhm.
ecosystem in general? Like, tell us a little about what that transition was like.
Yeah, I think the bug of, like, as I while I was still on clinical Rainmaker, it wasn't like I stopped listening to Danny's podcast. Danny was still in my ear, and I was listening to the podcast, and he talk about the hit by the bus test, right? Of like, if something happened to you, what a, what would happen to your business? Would it crumble, or like, did you just create a job for yourself versus building a true business? So that messaging, I think, kind of started coming along, and, I had a call or talk with, maybe it was John again, of like, hey, think you could be a good fit for the mastermind. Here's X, Y, and Z, Y. And, I just had this forward momentum. Like, even before signing up for anything with PT Biz, I was thinking to myself, like, if I can have a way where I can learn from other people's mistakes, I'll do it. Like, I think I'm a great not coach, but I was a great athlete in that sense, where like if I had a coach, they tell me what's wrong or what not to do, I'll do it, or what to do, I'll do it. So I just took that same mentality. It was like, I'd rather make these mistakes early or not at all. And if I can learn from other people that can, like, there's no shortcut. It's still hard for sure. But like the mental overload of like the indecisions and whatnot, I wanted to kind of like not worry about so much. So I think the messaging from Danny, but also just the momentum where I was in business, where I knew I wanted to get out of my old space into a new one and eventually higher, was definitely something in my radar already.
Where were you at revenue per month at that point, if you don't mind me asking? So were you close to like 10K at that point in time?
Yeah, I think I
Okay.
hit that 10K mark, where I'm like, I probably hit like 10K within the last month, I would say, of like Rainmaker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's a perfect time then to continue that momentum swing.
Mhm.
So you join the Rainmaker, then you hire your first admin. How long did they stay with you, and did you overlap that with the PT as well? The tech that you had mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I wanna say he was probably there for about 6 months, but no, they did not overlap. I hired a PT by July of, I wanna say, or maybe August of 23. So I
Okay.
had moved into a new space, that my second sublease in May of 23, and I think I was looking to hire by like that fall.
Okay. Perfect. How did you find your first PT? Did you find them on LinkedIn or Indeed or?
No, she was referred to me by a PTA that I actually treated as a patient.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
she's I think she was like looking to not transfer, but move from, a smaller town to Sacramento, not too far away. And she was doing a long commute at the time, so she's moving to Sacramento and going to be more local. And yeah, she's just looking for another gig. Yeah,
That's cool. So
yeah.
what's your before we open it up to questions, tell us your two things. One, tell us your current setup. So what does your practice look like now in terms of standalone space, team, all of that?
hmm So currently we're at about a 1,500 square foot gym. So the current setup is I still treat. I have two clinicians. I have a full-time PT and I have a part-time PT. As far as niche goes, like we're still seeing a lot of like ACL rehab. We're still seeing a lot of runners. One of our part-time PT is really into like the barbell like space, so she does more, and she loves working with the like chronic low back pain patients, so she sees more of that. And then our full-time PT, who's more my recent hire actually, he sees like more general ortho. He's been a clinician for about 4 years before he jumped on into the practice. So he sees more your general like weekend warrior, if you will. But they're both kind of dabbling into the ACL rehab, and we all see runners. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
That's awesome, Kim. That's a good team. That's
Yeah.
I think that's a great size because are you green or are you black at that point then?
I'm green, pushing hopefully
Green.
black next year. Yeah.
I guess it sounds like you'd be like upper tier green, and that's probably pretty solid. So
Yeah.
for those that aren't familiar, we have colored name tags for those of us in the Rainmaker. So a green name tag that basically it designates your past 12 months worth of revenue. So green is 250 to 500K a year, and then black is 500 to 750. So the setup you have, Kim, that's awesome. That's a nice. It's not too many team members to manage either. It's probably very a little bit simple leadership wise. You're not running around feeling like
Yeah.
a chicken with your head cut off.
Yeah.
The last question that I'll ask before I open it up to the group is what advice would you like to give the current Rainmakers who are listening to this call now or in the future? Like what advice would you like to leave them with?
Ooh, that's a good one. And I'm not sure if if you guys heard this before, but one of Danny's talks was like, know what race you're running, right? Like, I think that if even in this early of business, if I listened to that talk, and this was at a mastermind event a couple more sessions back now, he talked about like knowing what race you're in, and we've been talking a lot about runners, right? Which is good segue. So like meaning, do you want to just be a solopreneur? Do you want a team of 2 to 3 kind of small size where I'm at, or do you want to grow this to multiple locations, several clinicians? I think knowing that in the like as best as you can, where you are now helps propel you into whatever action you're going to have next month, next quarter, next year. Because if I knew that I would maybe be more risky if I wanted to do something, but a lot of that comes to finances as well. So I think knowing your numbers is super important, and then knowing what race you want to run. Like it's totally okay to be a solopreneur and just kind of do your thing and have time flexibility. Um, that first hire is not always the most profitable either. There's more work that happens after that first hire. So there's so much like undulations along the way, but you can get through it if you kind of know what the end goal is. There's ups and downs with the business. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Kim. Yeah. And I think it does. It's like, because then it gives you a guide, a path, right? You don't feel like you're like, I don't know. Because you join the mastermind or even in the Rainmaker, sometimes you see everybody at these different levels and different stages, right? And you're like, oh
Right.
man, am I behind? Am I ahead? Am I never going to get this thing off the ground, right? And it becomes like that thief of joy from comparison, right? So, cool. Well, Kim, what we're going to do next, and for those of you that are on the call, we're going to open it up to any questions that you all have for Kim. So if you do have a question, just drop question in the chat. Kim, there was a question from Jeff a, a little bit ago, and he said you mentioned some key clients that help spread your business through word of mouth.
Yeah.
Other than the help you received from those referrals, what avenue of marketing produced the greatest growth in your sales and for the business?
Yeah. A lot of it was like, to be honest, like guerrilla marketing in the first early stages. Like, I don't think I ran ads until I had a PT, right? Like, I didn't mess with paid ads at all. It was a lot of like social media marketing. It was a lot of local workshops, those injury screens. You could boost ads, if you will, like if you don't want to like maybe or I'm sorry, boost Instagram posts, not ads, but if you don't want to dive into like the Meta and the Googles of the world, then maybe trying to boost a post that's doing really well. That's another avenue to do. But but honestly, you have to create brand awareness and people have to know who you are. Like it's hard to do that when you're just in a clinic by yourself and maybe you're not going out to a BNI group or you're not meeting at a chamber event or you're not meeting other business owners, right? Like people have to kind of know who you are to know who to send you to. And unless it's changed, Michael, you can tell me, but like I feel like in the early stages, you have to do that hard work of just getting out there, being in front of people, versus relying on some ad or some vendor that's going to get you leads. You know,
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I agree with that. And, we talk a lot in the Rainmaker, we want to market to where our avatar congregates, like market to that watering hole. And yeah, and
Mhm.
nobody knows who you are when you first start out and you're sitting in the four walls of your office. Like you're an unknown entity. I mean, yeah, you may have a few people that knew you from the previous job, but not enough to really stand on. So that's a really good point.
Yeah.
If you guys have any other questions, just type question in the chat, or you can raise your hand. And if you want to ask him in person, so I wanna make sure we have enough time for any questions from the peanut gallery. Thank you, Kim, for plugging KPIs because I think that's something that we see a lot. The folks in the Rainmaker and even in the Mastermind, it's becoming like out of vogue to track KPIs. I remember like when I was a Rainmaker, it was like, man, you either do this or you're gonna really. Otherwise, you're just like, I don't know, what am I doing, right? Like, how many evals? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it helps so much with decision making and trends, right? Of like, hey, like, you know, we got number of like evals or leads from this person or from this gym owner. This worked out really well. How can we replicate that? How can we replicate that? Because it's not just, there's seasonality in some things, but like how much can you replicate success, right? And how do you know that when you do have it? So
Yeah, for me, I'll say for me it took the emotion out of it because I mean I'm Italian, so I'm like, oh yeah, cool, like we're crushing it this month, and it's like, are you though? Or sometimes it's like you sing the blues, you're like, oh man, I don't know, visit count seemed down. Is this normal for what it's supposed to be like in December? What was December like last year, right? Like it kind of tampers your emotional amplitude a little bit, you know?
for sure. And the more sample size, the bigger the sample size is, the better, right? Like if you're comparing week 1 to week 8 and you're only been in business for 2 months, there's so much like up and down in that process. Versus now we're looking at quarterly trends of like, hey, we're year 3, end of year 3, Q4 versus like year 1. What big rocks did I move to be able to get to this point, right? I think that's important.
I know you mentioned that systems were, I think a lot of us are not used to developing systems because we're used to being staff clinicians.
Yeah.
What do you feel like really helped? Like what system in your business do you feel like really helped you to just kind of hit your stride and kind of take out the chaos a little bit and feel like you were able to just aim the cannon a little bit better?
Mm. Um, I'd say I hired a bookkeeper quickly. So do that if you can afford one. Um, and then being able to see that like profit and loss sheet, and start to learn how to read that. Because then you can kind of figure out like from a whole, not just on a clinical side, like from a business side of things, like how much am I like saving, how much can I put into business savings, or how much am I spending on, discretionary things that's really slightly personal, right? That we could maybe dial back on. Because again, that drives decision making in a business. It's like if you can be profitable and not just net zero, then you can start to think about hiring that first hire, which is like an admin. I can allocate 10 hours at minimum wage or slightly above to this person, and knowing those numbers. So yeah, that it was probably maybe at the time too expensive for me, but I just kept at it, and then eventually your gross revenue grows to where that's just an expense you're willing to take on a monthly basis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Guys, if you have any questions, yeah, feel free to either type question in the chat or raise your hand. Oh, Joe asked a question. Joe asked, I keep seeing ads on social media along the lines of if you're not involved in the AI movement helping you run your business, then you're falling behind. So
Mm,
he was asking, Kim, if either of us use AI to help our business, just aside
mhm.
from like simple chat GPT questions. I knew
Yeah.
Danny had that mastermind presentation, was that 2 cycles ago or somewhat recently about AI. How do you use AI in your practice?
I wish I knew how to answer this, to be honest. Maybe I'm not using it enough. Um,
Yeah,
you know, we again, it's maybe the size of business that we're in now, where I'm lucky enough to be able to have like a vendor like Patch. So I'm gonna plug Patch a bit. They help on the search engine optimization, sorry, side of things. So I think that bleeds into AI, right? Because AI, all it does is be able to populate the internet, grab as many things about what it is on that question that you're asking it. So I've tested it myself. Like I've written down like, go to ACL rehab in Sacramento, and like where do we rank in that? So I think from like I can't answer on the AI side, but I can answer just at least on like what can you do as a business owner. You can write blogs, right? You can make sure you can scan um, the language on your website to reflect back the message that you want to hear about ACL rehab or whatever it is, whatever niche you want to speak to. Um, and then I think that's going to help. And then also your social media, and that should also interact with your website. Um, as you gain more followers and as you get more clicks along the way, I think that's only going to help spit out on AI. So yeah, I haven't seen these ads on getting behind, but maybe now I'm going to get targeted now that I've read this question.
I was about to say, I think we're all going to get targeted now. I think there's like a few of those companies that offer like AI business solutions, right? And because so for those who don't know, Patch is one of our former mastermind members, Jeremy DuPont. Well, I guess he's still a current mastermind member. Jeremy DuPont, he sold his practice in Boston, and he created basically, we'll call it what, a marketing SEO company that Patch is, and he will take on businesses and help them. Uh, he'll run Google ads for you. He'll run email campaigns, set everything up through HubSpot, right? What else does he do? Write blogs for you. And a lot of that is AI based that he uses. So Kim's
Mhm.
essentially just outsourcing a lot of the AI usage from her practice to Jeremy. So Joe, for example, who asked the question, he's in the golf niche. So if I was in the golf niche and wanted to really target golfers, I would probably use AI to start looking to see kind of what you alluded to, like how can my message be best branded? Like what do golfers want to know about? What are some common injuries? What are some common things, right? Now I'm using AI as almost like a really, really robust search engine to allow me to help for that. Um, I use AI actually as a second business consultant. So I download my KPI spreadsheet every month and I upload it to a separate chat in ChatGPT. And all it does is remember and give me feedback month over month. And it's like, oh, great, your continuity percentage started a little bit lower in Q2 of 2025. It's getting higher. It will read the little notes section that I have at the end of the row for that month. And it's like, oh, I can see that, Jamie, one of our PTs took a few days off or took a week off. So we'd expect revenue to dip a little bit. And so I kind of almost use it as sort of like a small business consultant or just to like kind of bounce ideas off of. I'll use it from time to time for contracts. So I'm the director of sports medicine for Sarasota's professional soccer team. I'll take the contract that I get as an employee for the team and upload it to make sure that it's fair. Our lease renewal contract, I uploaded that. I kind of use it just as it's sort of like an accelerant to the things that I'm already doing. What I don't use it for is I don't replace anything. So um, I definitely don't use it for anything clinical because it's pretty garbage for medical and for, I guess, legal advice as well as what I'm hearing. It'll just make up facts and figures and references. So I wouldn't use it for anything clinically, but I would use it for just like, I definitely think marketing. You can link it to Canva and like I'll even take like let's say we're doing a run workshop in mid-December or mid-January. Once I finish making that Canva flyer for it, I'll download it and upload it to ChatGPT and say I want you to act as a digital marketing expert in the field of healthcare. Can you please give me as much robust critique on this flyer that we're doing, and I'll describe the event that we're doing, and it will tell me like how to change the font, where to add a shadow. If I don't know how to do something in Canva, I say, can you provide a step-by-step instruction on how to make that text more 3D? Or can you explain what you mean by improving your title text for XYZ, right? So kind of use it as sort of like an adjacent, but not a replacement. And I think that's where people can get a little stuck in, but
Yeah. I will say I think when I read this question, sorry, I thought it was more like how does the clinic or how do I show up on AI? I'm with you, Michael. I totally use ChatGPT. Like I think for job descriptions it's super helpful,
oh
right?
yeah,
Like just to like, hey, create a job description of like an admin or a PT. Even if when I want to run numbers by it, like we just did we are going to do a price rate increase in 2026, and I ran our old rates to our new rates and like what's the percentage increase and where are we on the market of side of things. And um, just to get I'm not going to go my decision making on that, but it is good to see like, okay, that's a jump of like 10 to 15%, kind of where I want to land, like do some hard math for me. So yeah, I totally use AI on that sense. I don't know how to manipulate it for me to show up in AI or for our clinic to show up on AI as frequently is I think how I read it the first time. So yeah.
would you mind, Kim, tell us a little bit about what your current prices are for 2025 and then where you going in 2026? Just because everybody seems to undercharge themselves, even in the mastermind too, but especially in the Rainmaker program.
And I will say when you hear these numbers, you probably think I'm undercharging, to be honest, in Sacramento, California. So currently we're at 239 an eval and then our 10, we do a 10, 20, and a 40. Really a 40 is kind of pie in the sky, like early post-op ACL. So we don't really sell a lot of those, but that's at 159. That's our lowest. But our 10
Okay.
and our 10 visit is at 199 a session and our 20 is at 179. And then
Primarily.
currently, and that's primarily what we sell is like a 10 pack or a 20 session package. Now though, in Jan 1, we're gonna implement the time-based offer. So I'm kind of saying this out to everybody in the world, which is great. Yeah, I ran through we have a whole like webinar, or not webinar, but like module on it on PT Biz, and it just makes a lot of sense for our population. So we've alluded and we've told, everybody, and we have email drips about this like price raise, but instead of going the traditional route of, hey, we're just going to slightly increase our 10 pack, slightly increase our 20, it's still a slight increase, but it is just flipped our messaging into more of like, hey, we're going to sell more programs starting of 2026. Like if you fall into the 10, it really is a 3-month program, 20 is a 6-month program, and so on.
Can you just, in like 1 or 2 sentences, explain the time-based offer just so that we didn't lose everybody real quick?
Sure. Yeah, so I think historically PT Biz is kind of taught to sell packages, right? Like 6, 10, 12, or 10, 20, 40, however you slice it. But now the time-based offer is more, it's really very similar. It's just flipping it on its head. And instead of saying to the patient that you're selling a number of sessions, you're saying, hey, your whatever, let's call it like knee sprain, your knee injury here will take you about 3 months of working together. And then there's like a monthly payment program for 3 months. So whatever that number is, and just off the top of my head, like $650 or $700, they're paying that amount for the next 3 months. And then you are kind of essentially capping that to a number of sessions, but it's clinically relevant to that tissue healing, or it's at your determination how many sessions that might take. So it's not unlimited visits, but it is kind of, maybe I'm seeing you from a weekly standpoint down to a biweekly standpoint.
Well, and
I
if
don't
you
know if
charge
that was
700,
wordy. That was pretty wordy.
no, that was perfect. And I think to your point, if you were to do 700 a month for a 3-month program, that's probably going to replace your 10 visit package, and that would be 2,100 total. So you basically went from 199 to 210 per
Sure.
visit, right? Or per plan, I guess would probably be the better way to describe it now.
Yeah.
So that's not, is that kind of what you were thinking about? That would be what, about a, oh shoot, I can't do the math that fast, like 5 to 10% increase, or do you do
We're
more?
actually gonna be a little bit more. We're probably gonna
Okay.
land closer to 750, which is gonna be like, again, based on ChatGPT, it's like a 15% increase. 15 to 18 is kind of where we're landing.
That's still pretty solid. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the new price, I think, yes, you were undercharging a little bit at
Yeah.
239 for especially, you have a part-time PT, so I feel like that helps a little bit because is your part-time PT 1099 or W-2?
So in California, if you're a PT, you got to be W-2 if they're within
Oh,
the same line of work. So all my PTs are W-2.
okay. And are they
Yeah.
paid hourly or salary?
Hourly.
Okay, gotcha.
Hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, does anybody else have any burning questions that they'd like to ask before we send Kim back to Sacramento? No? Well, Kim, thank you for your transparency, for just opening up a little bit about your story, your history, everything like that. Really.
I had one.
Okay,
I had
yeah.
one question. Yeah, I was just wondering. So yourself, you were saying that you felt like the workshops were kind of just kind of a better way to kind of attract more clients versus the injury screens. Anything else other than just kind of you felt like just you were good at like talking and explaining things? Was there anything else that you kind of felt that made you feel that way at all?
Yeah, I think from a brand awareness standpoint, I would lean in workshops, right? I'm not saying one's better than the other, but I think in the early phase, it's like you have to set yourself up to be the subject matter expert on something. And I think you can capture a bigger audience with a workshop. And then, maybe subsequently you set up an injury screen later on where it can be more one-on-one. Um, to be honest with you, I think at the time when I was kind of newer to my own practice, that I just wasn't aware of injury screens. Maybe it was just a newer concept that kind of was introduced. So that's I say that in saying like this is why I leaned with workshops more, because I was trying to establish a brand, establish like some notoriety, I guess, in my local community. But I'm not saying or injury screens are not helpful. I think once you've established that, then you can kind of niche into, hey, let me go back to that gym again, and let's see if we can do an injury screen, and I can be more one-on-one with clients.
Yeah, and I definitely could see in terms of just like bigger reach in terms of like that allotted time, how it can be useful for sure. So cool.
Yeah. It's like turning on a faucet, yeah, in marketing. It's like you kinda have to have it's like fishing, you gotta have different rods out there and try everything, to be honest with you.
Yep, no, for sure. Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Sweet. Well, Kim, thank you so much for hopping on here. I don't want to keep you longer than an hour, but appreciate everything, and thank you again for everything. If you guys want to reach out to Kim, Kim, where can people find you on Instagram and your website? You want to plug those real quick?
Yeah, so just follow us at Lacasse, LAKASPTP on Instagram, and then our website is the same, LacassePT, LAKASPT.com, and then my personal is somewhere in there. I have a long last name. Most people will remember my last name, but find me on there, give me a follow, and yeah, I'm really excited to see where this group goes. Best of luck to everybody.
Sweet. Thanks, Kim. I appreciate it. Well, hey, have a great rest of your Tuesday, Kim, and then I'll see you in Charleston in March.
Yep, I'll see you then. Take care, Michael. Thank you for the interview. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Bye, guys.